All right, so let's get moving with sort of the second of three lessons where we're going to talk about doing the what events you can have access to, and really what are we trying to do here? We've talked about how you can have access to pretty much any element within the page. Now, what we want to do is say, well, what can you have the user do to those elements to trigger taking certain actions, right? So we've already used like clicking on something and having it hide other text, or clicking on something or mousing over something and changing the colors and that sort of thing. So I'm going to do a few other ones, most of them related to forms and making forms more interactive. All right, so what we'll do first is I'm starting off with where we're sort of ending up, and you can see here that I can have my form change color, or the field in the form change color. If I click on it, which you knew how to do basically from style sheets, but I've also, as you see here, my text has changed when I clicked in the text field, and then when I move off and leave to another field, I get a message that says you've just left the text field. And then right here, which is kind of cool, I can start typing, and it's going to know that I'm starting to type, and it's going to type what I'm saying. So these are a few different, in addition, I'm doing one other one, which is clicking on this, and this changed my message. If I'm a male, it gives me this message. If I'm a female, it gives me this message. All right. So we're really going to focus on four different events: focus, blur, key press, and change. And let's get started with those. So you should start off with some basic stuff here. I wonder if I saved this as sample code. I didn't. That would have been a good idea. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to delete this code here and get started from scratch, which is how you will do it. And what our first mission is to use the focus event to have it be where when I click on the form info field right here, it's going to do a couple things. I want to change this HTML, and I want to change the background color. And like I said, I can change the background. If I wanted to, I could change the background color using CSS, but I'm just going to do it using JavaScript, or in this case, Java Query. All right, so first thing is, what's my field name? It's form info. So I'm going to say that when somebody clicks on form info, actually, I'm not going to do click, I'm going to do focus. And that is something specific to fields on a text, on a form. So I'm going to say focus, and then what I want to do is at that point, I want it to run a function, right? Just like we've been doing this whole time. Here's the syntax, and I usually just create this, because then that says I'll put whatever I want to have happen here in this function. And so what do I want to have happen? I want to change the color of the box, right? So I can say, and actually let's try this out. I think you can do this, select this CSS background color yellow. So that's first just changing the color of it, right? Let's see if that works. I don't use this that much, but it might work. No. All right. So we'll just do the regular way, which is to specify what it is, which is to say here. All right, form info. So I'm saying when this is when this received. Oh, you know what? I didn't even do the func. I didn't even. Let's say this. Let's try that one more time. Okay. So what we want to do is copy this. That's our selector, right? And so we're going to say selector CSS background color equals yellow upon focus. So that should work. Great. And then the other piece that we want to do, just to show that we can do it, is we also want to change the text in our HTML, our div box, which is div show info. So I'm going to change the color of my box. Then I'm also going to change the HTML here in the show info, right? HTML, and this can just say, you know, you've selected the text field. See, changes it here, does two functions. Okay, now the blur event is something different. So we're just going to copy this because we're going to use a lot of the same code. And I'm going to say, instead of on focus, I'm going to say on blur. And blur means that we're leaving it. Okay, so when we text through the different fields on a form, we're now leaving that field. So in this situation, I'm going to change the color from yellow to azure. And I'm going to say you've left the text box, right? So that's similar to like on mouse over or hover or that sort of thing, but it's specifically for fields. So now I click here, it turns yellow, you've selected the text field. If I tab from here, you see it says you've left the text box and now it's changed that to a different color. Great. All right, that's the blur. Now this next one is sort of interesting, and learning about key presses and typing and that sort of thing. We've already done how to deal with like mouse overs and mouse clicks, but what's another way for somebody to interact with the screen? It's by typing in stuff. So let's do a form info key press, okay? And that means that when somebody types into that field, when they press their key in the field, something's going to happen. And what we want to do is we want to start typing what it is that they have in that box. Okay, so let's say that let's do this. When they select the box, it turns yellow, but when they start typing on it, let's have it turn white. Okay, so it'll go back to being sort of easier to read. And then basically all we really want to have happen is we want to put a message into the show info box that says, looks like you're starting to type. Here's what you're typing. Now think about it for a second. How can we find out what they're typing? One way we can do it is we can grab the value of whatever's in the form info text box, right? So the form info text box, the value there can be accessed by grabbing that. That's the selector. I want whatever's in the form info, but I don't want the HTML. It's specific because this is a field. It's going to be specifically the value. Now I'm going to try this for a second because I think we might have to do something different. See if you can figure out what's making me think we have to do something different. I'm not sure about this. I was thinking maybe this quote could cause some problems, but you know what? It's outside of the quote, so that probably will work. So right here, if I wanted to do it, I could always come here and I could say m equals form info value. So I'm creating a variable, right, that equals whatever the thing is, whatever the value of this field is. And I'll just do that because I think that's how I have it in the sample code. So now when I start pressing my keys inside the form info text box, it's going to change the color to white. Remember, it starts off yellow when I focus on it. It's going to change the color to white, and then it's going to start changing my div box, and it's going to say, looks like you're starting to type. And basically, it's going to retype it every time I press my key, and then it's going to select the value. All right? Select the value from the field. All right, so first off, here's the message text. Click on it, selected the text field, just test my blur. Great, let's say I go back, it turns it to yellow, and I start typing. Here's what you're typing. And it's giving me that information up top. And I could have put a blank here, or a space here so it makes it a little easier, or a line break here so it makes it a little easier, right? All right, so that's item 1 through 3. The next thing is just an on change, and we want to just show how we can start to see the value that's coming in and use it to change the message. So what I want to do is I want to get it where if I select male, one thing shows up in this box, and if I select female, another thing shows up in this box. All right, so let's go here, and I'll put this at the top just so we can stay here at the top without scrolling. The name of the select box is select ID equals gender choice, and then the value for male is going to be M, the value for female is going to be F. Okay, and I'm going to use an on change. So that means it starts off with select gender. When I select male, that's going to change this value, or it's going to make a change, and at that point I can grab, using ID equals gender choice, I can select what the value of that is and then use that to determine or change what I want to show. All right, oh, I was going to do that up top. All right, so up here I'm going to say, and remember, what's my ID? It's going to be gender choice. So on change, right? And now in JavaScript I say on change, but I have an event called change. And so then I'm going to put in here I'm going to have it run the function just like we've done below. And I like doing my syntax like this. So now I have my space where I can write in my function. So what do I want to have happen? I want to change the show info text to be something that I want. Okay, so I'm going to have this go looks like your and then I'm just going to put a variable in here and I'll call it gender type. Okay, now if I wanted to, I could say, create my little space there, make it a little easier to read. I could say gender type equals, so I'm creating a variable, gender type equals gender choice, so this is what they chose on that form, value, right? And so at this point I've created a variable called gender type, I've assigned whatever they select as the value to gender type, and then I'm changing what is the HTML in my show info div tag with the ID of show info to looks like your and then I'm just putting gender type in. So it's going to change based on what they select. All right? And this is all triggered by the event change. So when this ID changes, this function is run. Looks like you're an M. Looks like you're an F. Now, we want to just show that we can start to use that information. So let's say here I'm going to create, I'm going to have gender type be defined as male, right? And what I'm going to do is I'm going to say if this gender choice val equals M, remember our if statements, then gender type equals male, and put this in here, else, and then create my space. I like creating my space. I'm very pleased with that syntax. Then I'm going to say gender type equals female. So now it's going to grab this value. It's going to evaluate it. If it's M, I'm going to assign my variable value as male. If it's gender type not M, then it's going to be female. I forgot to change that. And then I'm still going to use this looks like you're a blank, and it's going to now, rather than say looks like you're an M or looks like you're an F, then it's going to do that. Now I could have, of course, gone down here and made this male and female if I wanted to, but you know, save work, show web page. All right, so right here, I change it. Looks like you're a male. Looks like you're a female. And start typing. And it all works. Go to it. This is challenging. Make sure you get your syntax right.